और आइए एक बार फिर हम रुख करेंगे आर्थिक समीक्षा की तरफ ही। आज बजट से एक दिन पहले सरकार ने आर्थिक समीक्षा पेश की, संसद में पेश की है। और साथ ही साथ आर्थिक समीक्षा में जहां एक तरफ 2023-24 में भारतीय अर्थव्यवस्था किस तरह से रही उसका विवरण है। और हमारे साथ इस समय जुड़ गए हैं मुख्य आर्थिक सलाहकार वी अनंत नागेश्वरन जी। बहुत बहुत स्वागत है नागेश्वरन जी, आप अपने अपने बड़े व्यस्त समय में से थोड़ा सा समय डीडी न्यूज़ के लिए निकाला है। सर, सबसे पहले यही जानना चाहेंगे कि भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था को, इस इकोनॉमी की दिशा दशा किस तरह से आप देख रहे हैं? सर, आपकी आवाज हमें नहीं मिल रही। सर
Okay, so thank you very much for having me on the show. And since my Hindi is not very good, I apologize for that. I am responding to you in English. So if my response is not exactly what you were looking for, please correct me. I think I do see the Indian economy as performing very well. I mentioned it very clearly in my press coverage, in my press meet, that we are very upbeat on the Indian economy's prospects going forward. We have very good corporate balance sheets, banking balance sheets. We have built physical infrastructure. The government has spent a lot of efforts. Digital infrastructure has been created as well. And the private sector is beginning to invest. And I think the job creation machinery of the Indian economy is coming back into more vigorous health than before. So for all these factors put together, Indian economy can achieve a sustained growth rate of close to 7% in the coming years. So our outlook on the Indian economy remains very positive. Back to you.
जी, अब सर एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन को लेकर भी काफ़ी कुछ कहा गया है इकोनॉमिक सर्वे में, और उस पर ज़्यादा जोर ये दिया गया है कि किस तरह से प्राइवेट सेक्टर को अब आगे आने की ज़रूरत है। तो ये जो एक कोऑर्डिनेशन प्राइवेट सेक्टर, सेंटर और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स का है, इस पर चाहेंगे कि आप किस तरह से आर्थिक सर्वे में बताया गया है।
So private sector, it is not just we need coordination between the government and the private sector. Each one can do what they need to do. Government, for example, not just the union government, including state governments and local governments, have to release and remove many of the constraints today that are holding back our small and medium businesses from growing. And private sector on its part should make a choice between investing in capital, investing in technology, and investing in labor, hiring more people. What is the right balance between the two? Because if we don't hire enough people, then we don't create income growth in the economy, and they will not buy the same goods that the private sector is producing. So it is not in the private sector's own interest. And as far as the academia is concerned, that should continue to train our youth in the right areas. For that, industry academia collaboration must happen. So when it comes to private sector and government, there is a need to identify the areas where the government can ease regulations, deregulation, and there is a collaboration between industry and the private sector, and there is a collaboration that is required between union and state governments and local governments. That is what we spoke of, the need for tripartite compact in the economic survey. Back to you.
Sir, in economic survey, there's a major focus on skilling also.
Yeah.
So, किस तरह,
Go ahead.
किस तरह से स्किलिंग, मतलब इसकी जो कमी है वो कैसे अर्थव्यवस्था को हमारे मतलब नुकसान पहुंचा रही है, या फिर उसको और तेजी नहीं दे पा रही?
So I think the skilling aspect has been given enough attention by the government. But the number of people that need to be skilled in the country remains very vast. Even though much progress has been made, many lakhs of people have been adequately skilled under the Prime Minister Kaushal Vikas Yojana and the skilling programs, etc. The numbers that need to be skilled remain staggering. So vocational training, apprenticeships, practical internships during the college years, all these things can take off on a much bigger way, and that is what will make our youth employable as soon as they finish their education.
सर, कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर के रोल को भी ज़्यादा बड़ा देखा जा रहा है, और ख़ासकर अगर हम बात करें कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी को, किस तरह से आप अहम देख रहे हैं, और उसके दायरे को बढ़ाने के लिए, यानी कि उसके स्फेयर को और बड़ा करने के लिए क्या ज़रूरत है उसकी?
So for the corporate sector to be a big major contributor to economic growth of Viksit Bharat, corporate social responsibility cannot be a separate activity. It should be intrinsic to its business, whether it is job creation, whether it is hiring more people, and whether it is making adjustments on deploying technology, in creating the right kind of products and avoiding mis-selling and misrepresentation when it comes to banking and insurance products, emphasizing quality, because we have seen a lot of cases of adulteration, creating bad reputation for Indian products in overseas markets, and also the kind of health consciousness that Indian youth have to generate. If the Indian corporate sector focuses a lot on selling unhealthy foods to our youth, so these are all the ways in which corporate sector has to display social responsibility. So CSR is not a separate activity, but CSR must become intrinsic to the way in which the Indian corporate sector conducts its business.
सर 2047 के लिए 2047 के लिए जब हम विकसित भारत के संकल्प की बात करते हैं तो उसमें एग्रीकल्चर एक ग्रोथ इंजन के तौर पर देखा जा रहा है। इस ग्रोथ इंजन में और क्या किए जाने की ज़रूरत है? आर्थिक सर्वे, इकोनॉमिक सर्वे क्या-क्या और चीज़ें नई बताता है कि एग्रीकल्चर को ग्रोथ इंजन के तौर पर देखें?
So we have covered it in great detail in both in the chapter dedicated to agriculture and also in chapter 5 on the medium-term outlook, how agriculture can be turned into an engine of growth. There are multiple ideas given. One area is diversification in allied areas of agriculture, fisheries, livestock, dairy, etc., allowing the farmers to take advantage of export markets, creating more irrigation, making our farming less dependent on monsoon, and also tailoring our MSME support pricing policy consistent with our climate goals and our water security, etc. So these are all the ways in which we can actually, and also creating cold chain storage for many of the perishable commodities. These are all the ways in which we can make farming an engine of growth, and we have discussed it in great detail both in the chapter on agriculture and in chapter 5.
जी सर, एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन को लेकर भी कई ऐसे एक तरह से मजबूत बिंदु रखे गए हैं। एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन पे किस तरह से देश आगे बढ़ रहा है?
Energy transition is an important requirement for all countries because we know that climate change is a reality and it is man-made. But energy transition has to go hand in hand with energy security, because India per capita emission is one of the lowest in the world. And for us, we need more energy. And today, developed countries are developed because they used energy very cheaply when they were growing. And we cannot be denied that opportunity. And therefore, we need technology, we need resources. And we internally also have to decide the pace, the speed with which we do energy transition. Because if we move very quickly, then we will lose the tax revenues we collect from petrol and diesel. The railways will lose the revenues they get from hauling coal across the country. Our banks may have to write off assets in thermal generation plants and many other assets linked to fossil fuels. And the labor that is employed in fossil fuel industries may become unemployed. They need to develop different skills. And moreover, renewable energy requires more land, and we will become more dependent on imported raw materials and critical minerals and rare earths from China, and technology as well. So these are all the multiple considerations. So we need to make sure that energy transition pace is consistent with our energy security, economic development, and also with our fiscal sustainability, with labor markets sustainability and stability, etc. So this is the way in which we have to proceed carefully, and not simply because we need to meet the goals set for us by the Western nations, which do not anyway share with us adequate amounts of financial resources or technology as they should, because they are the historical contributors to the current climate change, global warming problem.
So, the contribution of MSME sector is very important for our economic growth. किस तरह से आर्थिक सर्वे में ये पाया गया है कि MSME सेक्टर को और ज़्यादा ताकत दी जाए? हम जानते हैं कि पिछले जो इकोनॉमिक रिफॉर्म्स किए गए हैं उसका बड़ा असर दिखा, जिसमें PILs हैं और तमाम ऐसी योजनाएं हैं.
So, as far as the MSME sector is concerned, we feel that we have too much of micro we need more small and more medium enterprises. And the economic survey points to the several areas which can contribute to the small and medium becoming bigger. Many micro enterprises going into small and medium. This government has done a lot on ensuring access to finance, but we also need to make sure that the micro, small and medium enterprises get focused training. They don't need a formal education for 1 year or 2 years. They can't afford to spend the time. They need targeted education, targeted intervention on financial management, human resource management, inventory management, etc. Second, the impact of regulation, licensing, inspection, compliance requirements is much more on small, medium enterprises. That is why the emphasis on small, medium, emphasis on deregulation, because we want to grow the small and medium enterprises. So access to technology, access to right kind of skilling, and access to and deregulation. These are the three important areas of intervention for growing the share of small and medium enterprises in the overall manufacturing landscape of India.
जी सर, अंत में आपसे जानना चाहेंगे कि चीफ इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर की हैसियत में आप देश में आज इकोनॉमिक सर्वे आ गया, इसके बाद अब वो कौन से की सेक्टर्स रहेंगे जिस पर सरकार का फोकस होगा?
No, I think as far as India is concerned, there are every sector is a key sector, because we are 140 crore people and we need to grow at 7 to 8% to become a developed nation. So whether it is tourism, whether it is care economy, whether it is pharmaceuticals, whether it is electronics, mobile phone manufacturing, semiconductors, consumer durables or textiles. So we have this opportunity to focus on all sectors. In fact, one of the messages in this economic survey is that we cannot afford to be exclusionary. We need to be all encompassing in everything. And even with respect to sector focus, that is my answer. We cannot afford to prioritize. We need to prioritize all possible sectors. That is why we have multiple ministries, multiple agencies, multiple departments. So I would say that we have scope to grow in almost all possible sectors, manufacturing or services.
सर, इन्फ्लेशन एक ऐसा मुद्दा जिसको लेकर देश के लोगों की बहुत चिंता थी और इकोनॉमिक सर्वे का इंतजार था। इन्फ्लेशन के लिए जिम्मेदार कई ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जिसमें मॉनसून है, जियोपॉलिटिकल सिचुएशंस हैं। कैसे आप देख रहे हैं आने वाले समय में इन्फ्लेशन को?
Inflation, as we have mentioned in the survey, has been well controlled in India compared to many other countries. Food prices have been a problem because of erratic monsoons and climate volatility, unexpected warming months, unexpected flooding months, etc. Too much of temperature or too much of rainfall. So these have contributed. So for that, we have taken temporary administrative measures. But we need to also invest in cold chain storage. We need to invest in technology, and we need to make our monsoon, our farming less monsoon dependent. So we have both short-term and long-term measures that need to go hand in hand to keep food price inflation down. Otherwise, outside of food prices, overall inflation is extremely well behaved.
सर, अंत में बजट से बड़ी उम्मीदें हैं लोगों को और खासकर मिडिल क्लास को भी बहुत उम्मीदें हैं। तो क्या आप कहना चाहेंगे कल बजट आएगा, उसके लिए अगर कुछ भी आप कहना चाहें देश की जनता को?
No, I think we have less than 14-15 hours before the budget is presented by the Honorable Finance Minister. Why don't we wait for it to happen? I don't want to preempt what we should anticipate and look for in the budget. Thank you.
लेकिन इकोनॉमिक सर्वे कई अच्छी उम्मीदें जताता है बजट को लेकर। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर आपका हमारे साथ हमारे लिए थोड़ा समय निकालने के लिए। धन्यवाद सर। तो आप देख रहे थे विशेष बातचीत मुख्य आर्थिक सलाहकार वी अनंत नागेश्वरन जी के साथ, जिन्होंने साफ कहा कि जिस तरह से भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था मजबूत और स्थिर है, साथ ही साथ उन्होंने तमाम उन क्षेत्रों के बारे में विस्तार से बताया जिस पे अब सरकार का फोकस रहेगा इस ग्रोथ को आगे जारी रखने के लिए। न्यूज़ नाइट में आज बस इतना ही। मुझे दीजिए अनुमति।